Me again. Right, quick video. So, where do I start? So for years and years and years, I have pronated. So pronation, if you don't know what it is something that your ankle and your foot do. So yeah, I only discovered it when did I discover it? I think it's when I started running. My trainers, I used to like wear trainers and also wearing shoes in a particular way. Sometimes you look at the back of one of your heels and it'll be slightly wonky. But I can't remember quite why I got this, why I started going to a clinic and this guy said, oh, you pronate. And then because then I knew about pronation, when I was getting my shoes for running, I have to get shoes with like a little bit more support underneath the arch. But what's basically happening is, as you pronate, I'm going to come a little bit closer, is that your ankle rolls in a little bit. And without me really realising that this is how I'd always been, and I've always walked in this way. And if you watch enough of my videos, I mention my hip. My hip is like my best friend. Not really. It's like it just annoys me. But I get pain in my hip sometimes. I get pain in my lower back. And if you're talking about somatics, I always see that I've got the trauma reflex. So when I got run over, hit by a car, things went that way, and then my body decided you're straight and I'm slightly leany, and because the muscles have contracted, they're not been working very well. But anyway, I was thinking about pronation and whether or not pronation is going to affect how the body is, and I guess it can be, because if the support of this arch, the foot does particular, it's got to support the body in a particular way. I mean, if you look how big your feet are compared to your body, they're amazing, aren't they? They're tiny, but they're supporting all this stuff above it. Um, but yeah, so yeah, I would imagine that a pronation would affect how your bodies are. So like, if your natural propensity is for a foot to roll in, the knee's going to track in. You might have a little bit of weakness in your glute. I hate reducing movement down to things, but obviously when I say glute weakness, you're going to experience maybe pains in these areas and in the back in these areas. Anyway, so I was, I'm a massive somatics fan. I teach somatics, I teach gentle somatic yoga, and I kind of explored this theory. And a lot of, basically a lot of the movement that we do as children, babies, comes from the centre of the body. When babies crawl, um, they don't just get born and then go, oh look, I'm walking. They're learning from within how to move the hips and how to control the body, so they can start to bring, look at me doing random stuff, start to bring the legs forward, look at me creeping. But so the movement comes from the centre of the body, and like that's one of the big things that comes in somatics. We're trying to release these tension patterns that are held in the centre so we can begin to freely move. But I still think, so I've been working with that within my own personal practice and within my lessons, really been looking at how we move our hips. And I'm going to share some of these things with you today, but also pronation. So where I'm going to start with first is I'm going to start from the feet. I want to think about working from the ground up today. So I'm standing with my feet just in line with my hips, and I'm just going to bend my, in fact, I'm going to take myself to standing. So if I stand, I've me like this jumper where I've worn such a big jumper today. So when I stand, like without really thinking, I have a tendency to push my hips forwards. I think a lot of us do. I watch a lot of other people, and I think, yeah, you stand like me. So when we push our hips forwards, these buttocks don't really do anything. These hamstrings tighten a little tiny bit as well. So when people say, oh, my hamstrings are tightened, we've allowed them to by standing in the way we do. And it's, there's nothing wrong with standing like this, but this can happen. Anyway, so this has happened to me. So I can't even speak. Hips push forwards. So I'm going to just try to, in my mind, connect how I can stand in a nicer way. So I'm just going to take this jumper down again, and what I'm going to do now is just imagine I'm very sad. So I'm just drooping my head forwards and bending my knees. So look, knees are bent. And in fact, let's lift it up again. So if you notice, when my hips are just going to push back a little bit, and I'm going to be a little bit sadder still. I'm just going to round my heart round here, like my arms droop down. So I'm going to stand up now. So I'm imagining just beneath my feet, I've got a cardboard box, and I want to crush it with my feet. So I'm pushing down, and oh look, my legs are straightening. And then I'm going to now let my hips push forwards. And then rather than just kind of drooping, I'm going to lift up through my belly. I can feel my tummy muscles come in. And I'm lifting up and my heart's come up and my arms have drifted back. So now, I'm leaning back. So what I'm going to now do again, this jumper, is I'm going to pull these hips back. So if you notice, my hips are in front of my heels. So I'm going to pull my hips back over my heels and my legs straighten. And do you notice how everything then is just stacked on top? So I kind of train myself to stand like this, and everything, it just all feels nice. Everything just kind of settling down into the bones of my feet. So now there's me standing. And I'm just picturing that between my heels, I've got a little dot, and I want to squeeze a heel to the dot. Jumper. Bending one knee. So I'm going to do the foot that is the one that's been bothering me now. So I've got my right knee bent, and I'm now going to squeeze my left heel in towards the other heel. And you notice I'm turning. I'm not turning my hip. All I'm doing is squeezing my heel. And I can now feel that this twist has reached my shoulder. I'm just looking over the shoulder. And then I'm just going to relax the twist by relaxing the foot. And what I experienced when I did that is actually what was happening in the toes. So I'm just going to do it a little bit closer. So as I squeeze, do you feel that, see, my toes are still planted? I'm not letting my foot roll, so I'm keeping that toes still planted. And what it's doing is releasing all the way from the bottom of my foot, and it's travelling all the way up to that shoulder. So I've been doing that in my own time, and then I've been practicing on the opposite side. So again, I'm just going to squeeze it. So dropping the other knee, squeezing, and again following round. And then, practice it a few times. And then I'm starting to do opposite knees. So I'm just going to bend one knee, squeeze one heel, look over, relax, bend one knee, squeeze one heel, relax, and just get my hips to swing. And randomly, I am putting this down to this movement. I run this week and my hips were swinging, and because my hips are swinging, my legs are coming forward. It was so good. Anyway, that's not how I run. So the other thing I've been doing again, so I found this so useful for freeing up, I think, the muscles underneath my foot. I didn't realise they were tight until I started doing it, and I can now, what I've noticed is my calves have released. So I know we can't all do this. I've got the right size shins coming to this, but I couldn't do this but once before. My left calf used to lift a little bit, but now it doesn't. So it frees up, basically the peroneus, and all the way into this and into the glutes and up the neck. And I've also found that I tend to have clicky shoulders. My clicky shoulders are a little bit better. Anyway, I digress. So the next thing I've been doing is then practicing some sequences on the toes. So when we walk in, every time we walk, there is a connection from the foot to the ball and a push off the toe. So my last lessons in the last few weeks have had this in there. So again, I'm just going to roll to standing, placing hands at heart. And then I'm going to inhale up onto toes and exhale lower down. Inhale onto toes, exhale lower down. Just doing this a few times. And then inhale onto toes, and I'm staying here for 5 breaths. Exhale. Inhale onto toes. Exhale, keeping the heels lifted. I'm bending my knees, and again with this jumper. As I'm doing this, my knees are staying over my toes. I'm just going to do it from the front. So what I tend to find by going up onto the toes, my knees are not wobbling, they're not coming in, they are staying put over the toes. And my pelvis, I'm not tilting it. I'm trying to keep my ribs and my hips balanced. And then inhale, straightening the legs, and exhale, lowering the heels. Just going to drop the jumper. Inhale onto toes. Exhale, bending knees, again balancing the hips and spine. Inhale, whoops, exhale, that does happen. Inhale, exhale. Staying here for 5 breaths, so I can feel my big toe pushing into the floor, my little toe pushing into the floor, and I can really feel the strength of my hips. Inhale, straighten, exhale, lowering. Inhale, up. Exhale, bending the knees. I'm just going to show you again. I feel like I'm flashing you. As I lower my heels, because my knees are bent, my pelvis tilts forward. I'm just keeping my spine and my tailbone nice and long. If you wish, you can go bring your hands to heart, or you can go deeper, squeeze the heels and using the legs to come down. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Staying here for 5 breaths. So I'm squeezing my heels and I can come higher if I want. And then I'm taking myself down into crouch using my legs and then opening out into fold and giving a little paddle. Anyway, so let's rise to standing. And that'll do for now, standing wise. It's difficult to show you what I want to do on the floor actually. So I said about moving from centre and the hips. So my legs, oh God, how do I do this? My legs are out in front of me, just believe me when I say this. In fact, I'll do it as standing actually. But you lay down as you're doing this and just have your arms, so imagine I'm laying on the floor. And I just want you to think about the muscles down each side of the body. So this is my left side. So here is my spine, there are my ribs, there is my pelvis. But here we've got some muscle groups, and it's actually the ones on the back that we're interested in. So you've got your quadratus lumborum. There, one of the main things they do is lean us to one side. So, but they're also involved in walking. So each time you walk, what it's actually doing is not leaning you, but it's actually bringing your hip up. And that then enables you to roll the foot forwards and step. So what I've been doing this week is asking people to lie down, particularly in the somatics lessons, it's been all about that. Lying down. So I'm just going to imagine I'm lying down. And then picturing the muscles on my left side squeezing inwards towards the belly button. Do you see my heels beginning to lift and my knees beginning to bend? People are doing this on the floor and they can feel the knee begin to bend on the floor. And as you're on the floor, actually, there's a natural tendency for you to begin to turn towards the shoulder, the side that you're bending. And then we're just going to relax and just let everything come back to centre. So I'm not saying bend your knee and lift your hip. I'm actually saying think about the muscles tightening. So again, doing this on the floor, feel your heel slide in, your knee begin to bend, and then exhale. I'm just going to do it again. And then switching sides. And so obviously the opposite side is lengthening. You might get to know like a few little ooh bits in the body, like I didn't know that was needed some attention. And then I've been asking people just to get familiar with that motion on that motion. I keep saying move and motion comes out as motion on the floor. And then see if you can do one at a time. And you start, because your knees begin to bend, you start to feel that you could actually take this into a walk. Anyway, so that's what we've been doing in my lessons, amongst other things. We've been going into all these glorious things. We've been actually visualising movements as well. If the mind, the biggest thing about our bodies is our mind is definitely in control of everything. Your feet don't decide to walk. It's all coming from your mind and your nervous system telling you how to walk. The way we've learnt it from watching people, the lives that we've had, have all created these little memories on the body, and this is how we end up being how we stand, are all from the mind and our memories and our reactions to things. So yeah, we've been just doing visualisation to free up tension that we've got we don't even know it's there. But anyway, I'm talking a lot. So that's what we've been doing. I'm Zoe from Life Yoga. Nice chatting to you. And I'm now going to have to come to the camera and switch it off because I haven't got a film crew. Bye.